Αγαπητοί φίλοι και φίλες, καλησπέρα. Καλώς ορίσατε στην εκπομπή Υγεία και Ευεξία. Σήμερα φιλοξενούμε την Kika Pierides, η οποία είναι artist και θα μιλήσουμε για art, healing and mindfulness. Hello, Kika again. It's really nice to have you.
Hi, wonderful to be here again. How are you?
I'm good, and I have to say again that I love your background. It's
Thank
so
you.
summery, spring, it's beautiful. It makes
Thank you
you,
so much.
it's like, it cheers you up, it makes you feel, oh yes, it's fun. Now, Kika, you've described art as a way to empty your mind. Can you share more about how art became a form of mindfulness for you?
Okay. Well, I had a break from making with my hands for a while. So after I graduated, I moved into photography. So I became more of an observer of the world. But after many instances in my life, so I had my own mental health battle and also grieving a lot of losses in my life. And personal development and so many different things, I found my way back to art. So I used photography that I was taking as inspiration. And I started, because I loved landscape so much, I wanted to find joy, reach that level of joy again. And I started getting kids' color blocks because what I noticed was a sort of sensitivity to the environment around me in terms of the colors being quite vivid or the sounds being quite loud. So I got these kids' color packs and I started color blocking landscape images. And this was really the beginning of how putting together bits of paper it started to symbolize the putting together disparate parts of my mind. So sometimes I think when we're grieving, or we're having difficulties, we can feel like our thoughts are disbanded. And I guess the best metaphorical sense of comparison to collage is, especially, is taking these bits and putting them together is almost like piecing together the pieces of the puzzle of your mind, so to speak. And so this is really the beginning of what happened.
I mean, watching your video at the beginning, the video we've just seen, it is relaxed. While I was watching it, it was relaxing for me, watching you cutting all these colorful pieces and then trying to make something out of it. So I fully understand what you are trying to say.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very
Now,
much.
in what ways have you noticed that others, whether followers online or people close to you, have responded to your work as something healing?
Okay. I mean, it's quite a story. Basically, when I started this work, I did something I'd never done before. So I was never a social media person. I was a very, I hadn't even ever put a photo of myself online until about 2018, to be honest with you. And then one day I just decided to do the opposite. And let's say I started posting an image every day. I would create an image and I would put it up. And it coincided, the creation of my practice coincided with COVID as well. So there was a lot of isolation for people. And it seemed that, in a way, the irony was that I took color because it was something I was seeing as very vivid. But the opposite happened, that from something that was painful for me, it became something very joyful for others. And every day I would post something and they would tell me how much it was making their morning and their day. And then this sort of community of joy started to develop, but not in a toxic, positive way at
Yes.
all. It wasn't like overt, it was quite tempered. And I think, yeah, this is the crux of it. It was that sharing in that community. And just through the process, and as you mentioned, people watching, I used to post a
Mm.
lot of videos as well. They there was a lot of involvement, and I got people more and more involved with choices and colors and so forth. So yeah.
Yes, no, I fully understand. And it's nice also to feel that you belong into a community, you know. And so this is another thing as well. Of course, they were happy to see your art. They were looking forward to it every morning. And at the same time, you felt, okay, I've got my crowd. They are waiting. I'm doing something for them, which it feels good when you know that you are helping someone. Now, about your intuition, what's the connection between intuition creation and emotional well-being in your experience?
Wow, what a fantastic question. I've always been an intuitive artist, actually. And when even 20 years ago, all of my work was very intuitive, except it looked very different. And sometimes people find it hard to relate the emotion because it's like this kind of painting, for example, it's
Mhm.
hard edge painting. You paint lines. I don't paint with tapes, actually. I just want to just put a disclaimer on that because there is a rigidity to it that some people use tapes and it can be seen as quite detached from emotion.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that makes much sense, but let's say, without going into too much detail about the technicalities, too much, I think that I have a kind of a phrase about my work. It's called taking a shape and walking with an emotion, because that's how it started. And maybe you saw in the video that I worked with either a triangle or bits of pieces of paper. And it really was through these random bits of paper that the formation through unstructured shapes came the idea of cutting actual shapes and
Hmm.
positioning them. But they came about the whole idea of shapes themselves was it's so different to anything else I've done before. And it did come about via an intuitive um, act of creating um, in the moment. So I was following that thread through the creation of shapes. And then, so if I took a triangle, the triangle maybe turned into a curve within a triangle, and then so forth. And then it would translate further and further. And the connection to my emotions is that I guess the whole process is almost like having a silent conversation with yourself. So you have bits of paper, you may have arranged shapes, and then you start to maybe you put something down on the top right hand corner of the page and then the center of the page. Then you start to move it around. It's like a sort of tension that occurs. But
Wow.
it's also a silent conversation. So it's like a conversation with your inner self. So it's like, let's say we're having a conversation now, like a conversation I have with my friend. I take pieces and I try to put them together, and then we come up with a solution and we reframe that solution. And then I walk away and I think, oh, and then my subconscious starts to catch up with me and I think, oh, I have a different outlook. And my work is very much like that in the emotional sense. I take these bits and then I start to move them around, and there's a tension, like a conversation that's happening within a composition. And then I walk away having solved a different puzzle of my inner self. So it's quite
Mhm.
emotional.
Yes, it sounds very interesting because you've mentioned it's like a conversation. Yes, like let's say we talk about Maria, a
Yeah.
colleague at work, let's say, yes. Oh, she didn't turn up today. Or do you think because she's not well? Because I don't think she looked very well yesterday. Or do you think so? It's like having this kind of discussion, you mean like trying to put a puzzle together and to come with an answer,
Come with an understanding.
understanding.
So it's like let's say you it could be anything minor or major. So let's say specifically when I developed this practice, I was dealing with grief quite a lot.
Hmm.
So I would come with a lot of emotional intensity around sadness moving to joy. So I would think, sometimes within the grieving process, there's a stage of anger. And I remember this. And I think that I was dealing with emotions around anger. And so I would think about those emotions, but it's not directly even thinking about them. It could be, so I mean, it's a bit of both. It's a conscious and a subconscious thing. So you could come with a direct problem and something that's more beneath the surface, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. Now, the exciting, I mean, the whole conversation, it's exciting part. You are now taking this process into hospitals. I mean,
yeah.
how
I know.
exactly? I mean, how did you got
How
involved
did I
with
come
this?
about this?
Yes,
Well,
for
it was actually,
patients and stuff. Yes, sorry.
no, it was September, and I saw that a friend of mine was doing something with a charity called The Space Between, and I thought, well, that sounds fascinating in its own right. And I started looking into it more, and I slid into the DMs of someone on Instagram called Emily Halban, who's the co-founder, with ironically a Greek lady called Tiana. And they founded this charity called A Space Between. And we just started speaking over the internet. And then we arranged a meeting. And she told me about what was available to me because I had my own lived experiences. And what I really said to her, as soon as I heard about what the work that they do, I wanted to sort of, because I have like I'm a trained teacher as well, and I think through my work I created a lot of exercises that I think could be applicable to people in a sense, and I wanted to sort of immortalize these exercises. So when I heard that they were looking for artists in residence, I said that I'm very interested in doing it because basically the artist in residence wait, there's two things I want to say simultaneously, and that's why I'm
Yes.
getting a bit. I think
you have time for both.
I think what touched me about their journey was that Emily has lived experience with mental health issues, and Tiana has stage 4 cancer. And I've known a lot of people with cancer, and I still know people with cancer. My own father had terminal cancer, and I understand, a bit about the process. And when they mentioned their story about Emily said she was in waiting rooms with Tiana when she was having her chemotherapy treatments and so forth. And she said there was a space between where people were waiting and staring at their feet. They didn't quite know what to do with that time. So she said she went and got a book for people to color in, for them to color in as they waited, because sometimes you don't want to talk about everything that's going on in your mind.
Yes. And here are other stories. Oh, what is your story? And
it elevates your anxiety, doesn't it? And I think that when I heard that, I thought to myself, oh, that's so beautiful. And it's not only they have that initiative, I think it's called Doodle to Connect, which is they get drawings from around the world. It's an initiative that they started in COVID, and they build up books for people to color in. But it was the residency thing that I thought was very interesting, was that you create self-guided therapeutic exercises which anyone can do, and they are put into a booklet which is sent to over 20 hospitals nationwide, alongside art packs for staff and for patients to do. So it could be even the kitchen staff, it could be the doctors, it could be anyone. And I think that's such a lovely inclusive initiative, and their premise was basically to create healing pauses for people in these different settings. And that's what really appealed to me, is immortalize these exercises that helped me so profoundly through my own grieving process and through my own mental health battles, and brought me back to myself, but also to help extend that to others. Because art can be, and I don't mean to sound negative, art can have a great detachment within it, in the sense of, you look at an image, but you may not, there may be an academic framework around it, but you may never enter that world completely. And I think through my art, I really want to, I think, touch someone's humanity. And this is really why I decided to do this work with them.
Any feedback so far?
So actually the project is, I'm going to be the summer artist in residence, which is in July and August. So the packs go out then. And I'll also be taking part in workshops, which are, one of the workshops is at a place called Future Dreams, which is a house that supports ladies with breast cancer. So I'll be combining therapeutic kind of guided exercises with my own artistic practice there. And also there's a dedicated art studio in Chelsea and Kensington, which I'll be going to. And I will also be doing the same thing there. And I hope to continue my work with them as well. I can't say too much about that because we've not had that discussion yet. But yeah, so this is what.
Can you share more about how nature-based rituals or outdoor sessions influence the healing process? Because I think you are doing something with this kind of healing.
Yeah, totally.
Is it something that you can discuss?
Yes, absolutely. I think for me, before I've always been a walker, let's say, and I've always been someone who loves nature. And after I had my own health issues, I really got into trying to find ways to balance myself. I don't think art is the only way. I think that it's a multiplicity of ways that and tools that we must use to ground ourselves. And I think that I use certain tools myself. So I always go for morning walks. I think that it's, for me, if as a simple definition, it helps to collect my thoughts. There's no other way around it. If I don't go for a walk, I don't feel like myself.
You feel, something is missing. I fully understand. Yes.
But so I have this sort of a system, like in the morning, it will be the walk at least 45 minutes, at least. And usually in parks where I like to look at, I like to look at the things that the rhythms you can't see, like, it could be the sound of the water, for example. The sound of the water has a rhythm we can't. Like I was in, I don't know if you know this place, Carmel in the USA. It's an amazing place, and it's a huge beach, and of course we have amazing beaches in Cyprus. I'm not saying anything, but
it's different. It's not the same.
So it's the scale, and the waves would fall back, and the whole of the sound barrier would stop. For like just a few seconds, and then the waves would roll back in. And I think it's those kind of rhythms I love in nature that you can't see, but then also looking at the rhythms in nature that you can see. Like I always go and look, there's a pond that I always go to and have my coffee and my croissant, whatever. And I will look at the ripples of the willow tree as the willow tree changes throughout the year. So there's that sort of cyclical pattern. And I think these things are very relaxing, the things that you can see and that you cannot see. And I think that's exactly what my work is about as well. So when we talk about intuition, I'm creating a shape that I haven't foreseen. I didn't see it before, but then it's created into something that you can see. So, and So
fully
then,
understand. So, you know, this rhythmic visualization, is it something that you just discussed, you told us, or is it something different? Because I like the way you describe it in the notes you've sent me, a recomposing your inner eye exercise. I don't know exactly what you
what
mean,
I'm talking about.
but
I couldn't,
I think it's something nice, if you
I
like to
couldn't,
explain.
sorry.
If you like to tell us more about it.
Sure. So these are the exercises I created. They're like a preview of the exercises I created for the booklet for the
Oh,
hospital.
I see. Oh, so we are not supposed to, yes,
No,
we
no,
have
it's
to catch.
fine.
Oh,
It's
okay.
fine. There's no embargo. I had a discussion with the lady, with the
Okay.
co-founder, and she said there's no embargo, but I didn't want to give everything away because they do, the booklets are sold and they use money for the charity to
Of
help
course.
people. So I didn't want to overdo it, but
Yes. No, I think
the
you're doing great because you get the interest of the people, you know, of the viewers by saying these things. So I think they will want to know more from the book directly, you know.
yeah, no, totally. I think what I was trying to do with these exercises was I was trying to articulate often what we see or feel mindfully during the creative artistic process, but in a non-didactic way, in a sort of way that is taking someone's hand and guiding them through the process. So
Mhm.
if you imagine someone in their hospital bed, I don't know, they could have cancer and then they may not want to speak to anyone, but maybe they want to get in touch with what they're feeling. And having a guided exercise is like an inner eye, your
Mm.
inner landscape, is something that can be incredibly therapeutic to them. So, again, when I talk about the tension of a composition, it could be that they create all these shapes, like they might take triangles and then they might have squares, and then they start to place them compositionally together, but they don't consider where they're putting it. But this sort of tension, so first of all, the sort of the choice of the shape is reflective of the inner self. Like Picasso said, he says, I paint what I am. Or
Mm.
more or less, he said something like this, and I couldn't agree more. Like, I think he meant that he paints the inner
Yes.
form and shapes of the self. And I think this is what I'm speaking about. So the choice of shape or form is reflective of the inner landscape. And I think I mentioned to you last time, I think I have a subconscious desire to be near the sea because I keep doing these sort of, wave motifs. And then the decision of where to put things as well is very much to
Yes.
do with intention and harmony as well. It doesn't matter if the piece is non-harmonious because it depends on what someone is going through,
Exactly. Yes.
and it's
Sometimes
a
when
work
there is a
through.
lot going on inside us, then you know, someone might put all kind of different shapes, you know, upside down or straight or different colors because this is how they feel.
And it doesn't matter. It's
Yeah,
just that's just accepting it is what it is. It's not art for the sake of creating even a pretty image. It's not art for the sake of doing something representational or trying to impress someone. It's the very basic art
mm,
that anyone has access to,
mhm.
giving them paper and tools, glue that they could have done as a child, but they can do now, and not having to think about being perfect.
Exactly. So, I mean, this book, can someone get it from anywhere, or is it just for the patients? I mean, is it
No,
only going to be available as hospitals?
no, so it will be available online at a
Okay.
space between. I don't know if I've given you the website, but I think it's a spacebetween.com.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, if you don't know it and you want to, you
I'll
know,
send it to
yes.
you.
It'll be helpful, I think, for you, for the charity, you know, to try and help as much as we can.
Oh,
And yes, anything else before we finish? Any message to our viewers?
Gosh, I think that if through the work that I've touched a piece of your humanity, whether be it by joy or even by a shock tactic, then I think that's a great thing. I think that's what the work is all about. It's touching humanity and using even color as therapy in this context. So
Excellent.
yeah.
And
Thank
we
you so much.
have to congratulate you, Kika, for doing such a great work and for wanting to help the humanity,
Oh,
your own way. So this is really inspirational, and thank you for doing that.
thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Αγαπητοί φίλοι και φίλες, εμείς θα τα πούμε και πάλι την ερχόμενη Πέμπτη με ένα καινούριο θέμα και ένα καινούριο φιλοξενούμενο. Καλό σας βράδυ!